time.
Well, first of all, I'm very grateful that Paul had the foresight to realise that just as we come near the court case and my 55th birthday and a lot of what we've been through, that he would invite me to join with some others to consider a lot of the things that he's been thinking about over the last 2 to 3 years. And I've really enjoyed it. I think what's been probably most interesting or reflective for myself is sort of a confirmation or an affirmation that I've been lucky to have spent 25 to 30 years in business in what has been largely a golden era, and to an extent some of that golden era came about as a result of using more resources, the opportunity to use global economies, undeveloped activity, changes in all sorts of systems and processes, and I'm not sure all that has been right. My own court case is a testimony to some of that with regard to the professionals, but what I am clear on is, as we move forward in this process over the next 5 to 25 years, is that things are going to have to change. I think it won't be surprising to you that the last 5 or 6 years I've had to spend quite a bit of time on the court case and issues to do with where I'm at, and then I obviously had my mental illness for a couple of years. But all of that, I think, has allowed me to stop and sort of look around. I think the banking crisis really brought it all to a head for me as I sort of watched that evolve again. And I suppose the result of that is that I recognise now that capitalism and our ways of working and organisations and so on are going to have to change, and they're going to have to change quite fundamentally if we're going to be able to adapt to the next 5 to 25 years. What does that really mean? Well, I think it means quite a lot of challenges for senior leaders and shareholders, regulators, the professionals, accountants and lawyers and so on, because unless we make those changes, we are probably going to be making it almost impossible for the UK to survive for the next generation. I think the challenges that our children all face in terms of education and unemployment and things of those nature are issues that should certainly concern all of us. The increasing division between the rich and the poor, and how we actually manage our way through some of that in a much more difficult global world is going to be challenging. I think the last 5 years has given me that opportunity, not only to do the course, but particularly the last few years. What are the implications? And I think if people knew more and saw more models of how people can adapt in organisations and so on in the next 5 to 25 years, they'll have more confidence that for them and their children there is a better life ahead than many can see right now. I think that's key. Well, in my experience of change, it's incredibly important that people understand why the reasons for the change are necessary, and that we also can provide at least some sense of what the future might look like and what the implications will be for them and why they should join in helping making some of that change. I think that one of the challenges of whistleblowing, obviously in this case, is that you speak up whenever you see things that you don't believe are to be right, and that represent real challenges. We've got to have more people feel that they can honestly say what they believe inside businesses in an increasingly challenging economy, an increasingly challenging situation. So I think our challenge is to try and show people different views of organisations in the future, what can be made to work, what the basics of success in some of those are, and why we all, and in particular the leadership of companies and our politicians and our regulators and our professionals, actually do make the changes. And these are really fundamental changes in what they do. One of the most striking articles I ever read, which I thought I understood when I read it the first occasion, was a Harvard Business Review article called "Why Change Programs Don't Produce Change." And I was in the midst of a very major change as part of a senior team in Shorts Bombardier in Belfast at that time. When I read it the first time, I thought I understood it. I read it 4 years later and then realised I hadn't really, because transforming change means that everybody needs to change. and that includes where we spend our time and our actions at a senior level in businesses and leading that change. So the key is going to be leadership in all those areas and teamwork.